really appreciate everybody coming here. I had no idea Jennifer had so many friends.
Far more. So far.
So I was wondering what she did out here all these years. So let me start at the beginning. She, how about at conception? Just after conception. I was a senior in college, and her mother was a junior. And we were living in Albany, New York. And a few months after that, after the term started, she got pregnant. And Jennifer came 50 years ago tonight. In June of that year, 1968, it was quite a year for news, as you recall. But I graduated and started a job in aerospace, and it started out as a training session in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. And her mother was still a year shy of graduating at sunny Albany. And so she stayed in Albany for that term. And I found myself being transferred to Charleston, South Carolina. And I was there until the spring. So we were apart then, and then when that stint ended, I came back to work in Pittsfield, but she still had to finish her year at sunny Albany, and she still was pregnant. And so while I was in Charleston, I got word that the baby was coming. So I got on a plane, missed the birth by hours, and I kind of didn't see much of Jennifer for those 6 months until I got back to Albany. And but when I did, and she graduated, we rented a house in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, nice cottage. And we were there for, maybe 9 months or so. Me, the job hopper, got another job, and we went to Florida. And we were in West Palm Beach. I was working for Pratt & Whitney. And she was being a mom. Her mom was being a mom. And I think about a year after that, I was laid off and decided, well, maybe I'll go back to school. So I entered the graduate program in environmental science at University of Florida. So we moved to Gainesville, and we were there for 4 or 5 months when things got pretty ugly between us, so we split. And so that was 1971. And her mother took Jennifer to California, in Los Angeles. And I was still in graduate school, so I completed that. But during that period, there was a 3-month period where I went out to Los Angeles and tried to see if there was anything left between us. And when we gave up on that, I came back to Gainesville and graduated in December of that year. That's 1972. And in 73, I came to Los Angeles. And then there was a period, like a year and a half, when her mother wasn't having any of this. And I had to go to court to get visitation enforced. So after that was taken care of, I carried on like an every other weekend visitation with Jennifer. I was living in Santa Monica, and she was living in Agoura, about 45 minutes away. So Jennifer came to stay with me every other weekend until she was 12. And we had lots of fun. Let's see if I'm missing anything. Oh, by the way, the bill for the birth in 1968 was about $300.
You would have that.
It's worth it.
You would have that. Uh-huh.
So, during visitations, we would do things like go to concerts. Went to a Grateful Dead concert, I remember. Pink Floyd, maybe.
All right.
And so I got her into music early on.
Yeah, you did.
Good parenting, right?
Raise the right.
So, but I really didn't get to know her real well until she came to live with me. Her, I guess her mother couldn't handle it any longer. Sometimes these young girls can be kind of tough to deal with. So she moved in with me when she was 12. I was living in Venice. That's probably why she wanted to move in. She wanted to live in Venice. And she was starting 7th grade then. So had to get her into a school. So we checked out Mar Vista Junior High School. So I went over there one day, and it was like mayhem. I mean, these kids were all over the place. There's no way you could study there. So I got her into a Lutheran school in Venice. And there was like, I think 10 kids in the whole class, and it was both 7th and 8th grade combined. But it was a beautiful school. I mean, it was Spanish architecture, and it was right around the corner from where I was working. So it worked out quite well. But they only went to 8th grade. And so in 9th grade in California, you're still in middle school, usually. But I guess it doesn't work the same way in the Lutheran world. So I guess to give her a really well-rounded religious education, I enrolled her in St. Monica's High School. And it looked pretty good for a while, and then I started looking at some of the stuff she would bring home, and it was kind of religious. So one thing she brought home was it was a quiz, and I think it must have been. I think it was health or something. I couldn't remember the subject, but the question was, A fat-lipped, big-mouthed, large-nosed Jew is an example of a stereotype. And so I look at that and I said, "Shit, that's not right." So I called up the Monsignor, and he said, "Well, it's a stereotype, right?" I couldn't deny it was a stereotype. So anyway, I then decided to put her in another school for 10th grade, Santa Monica High School, very respected school. But one issue was, although I used to live in Santa Monica, I was now living in Venice. So, but I had a friend that lived in Santa Monica. So that was the address we used. And so that worked pretty well until they sent some mail and it came back. So then she finally wound up at Venice High School. If you recall the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High, that's Venice High School. So she loved living in Venice. I mean, she got to be one of the best Ms. Pac-Man players around. And she took up roller skating on the Venice boardwalk, and not too many people were doing it then. But they, little by little, it caught on, so it got to be quite the rage. So that was one of the things she spent her time on. I think it was just to hang out at the beach, an excuse for going down there. Another thing we like to do, we lived near the canals, and we would walk down to the beach for breakfast, and we'd walk along the canals, and she would take some bread with her and drop it in the canal as she walked along. And before she got to the end, there was like 200 ducks following her. So I really liked looking at that. That was cute. So some of the places we hung out and liked in that area were, if you're ever in Venice, eat at La Cabana. Really authentic Mexican restaurant. It's been there since, it's still there, I checked it out. I think they got the same menu too. Handmade tortillas, guacamole at your table. And some other places, if any of you are familiar with LA, we like Tito's Tacos, Cheese and Olive Cafe, Cheesecake Factory, Brandywine Cafe, and Chez Pousse, which was a crepe place, French crepe place in Santa Monica, right next to the Santa Monica High School, but I don't think they're there anymore. But there was lines around that place every night. So one day, while she was at Venice High, she got suspended.
Yes!
Guess why?
Yes! Yes! Smoking in the morning.
Well, it was smoking. So they suspend her and send her home. So I call them up and I say, "Why are you punishing me? Why did you have her pick up cigarette butts in the schoolyard?" And they did. So one day, like I said, I was working nearby when she was at First Lutheran, which is also near Venice High. So one day I just came home unexpectedly in the afternoon, and you wouldn't believe how many boys were jumping out the window. her and her boyfriend were out after curfew, and the local gendarme brings them both back. And you know, she was totally resistant to being controlled, and indignant about being brought home. So, well, she graduated in 1986 from Venice High. And so then we had before that, we had a look at colleges. And the only one she liked was San Francisco State. I think it was the hidden thing. From Venice to Haight-Ashbury, it's a short trip. So she got an apartment. She was, we looked around. She didn't want to live in the dorms. I guess too controlling. And so we responded to a roommate ad from this tall Jamaican guy named Yusei. And so that's where she lived first. But she moved many times after that. But finally settling in where she lived at the end. I think she's been in that apartment since 92, 93. So although it took her 5 years to get through, she got a solid B average. So I was impressed.
Kids make 6 these days, and that's even, to them, they think.
So she had many part-time jobs while she was in school. She insisted on working. I guess she wanted some spare change. And so she took like 3 courses and worked part-time. That's what she'd like to do. Couldn't argue with it. So she finished, I think, after 5 years in '91. And then, let's see, I moved up to San Francisco area in '95. So we thought we would see each other more, being closer, but you know, things get in the way. And I don't know, she was probably pretty occupied, not having too much time for Dad. And she didn't drive, much to my chagrin. But you don't need to drive in San Francisco, so it all worked out. So that's where I'm going to leave you, because you guys know more about what happened after that than I do. But I guess I'm supposed to tell you where everything is. So room 7 is the bar. Room, right, okay, so you guys have already found it. And room 8 is the reflection room. There's some posters there that my partner wife Ginny has created and curated in great detail. And there's 4 of them. The first one is childhood years. I think that goes up to about 10. And then the teenage years. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then there was 4 posters, right?
Yeah. 3.
3, okay. I thought I had lost them. And 80s and 90s in San Francisco.
Right.
So if you have any questions about any of those pictures, I might be able to help you out a little bit. But Ginny's done a good job of telling you where they are, and they're in almost perfect chronological order, as best as I can tell. And the food is in 5. Probably can't miss it. Down the hall on the right. So let's see, who else do I want to thank? Wendy, thank you so much for everything you've done. I mean, she was so helpful at the end for me. Thank you so much. And Chrissy and Mark. Chrissy assembled all of Jennifer's things that we would like to give away to anybody that wants them. And she made these beautiful amulets of Jennifer's ashes. And there's a couple of other things too. I think some refrigerator magnets.
Yeah, Karen, those are from Karen.
So feel free to take any of those that you want. Spread the love of Jennifer. And let's see. Of course, the bands. We'll be seeing them tonight. All of Jennifer's friends.
Bob's not here tonight.
Oh, Bach. I talked to Bach a few days ago. And I hear he's not too good at funerals. But he said he would just be a sobbing wreck if he can. But maybe we can all reach out to him when it's comfortable to welcome him back. He's a great friend.
Skype him right now.
Yeah, we can bring him in, force him to be here. So who's next?
Bruce, I have a question. How did she get her name? I like that Tabitha. I didn't know that.
Oh, I picked it out of a book. You know, they have these. I looked for something that was different because Jennifer is so common, and Weinstein's not all that enough. So everybody needs a unique name. So,
Beautiful.
and I thought it was pretty.
It is. Never having a trick maker.
Oh, I can see that.
So we watch the slideshow first, and then anybody who wants to come up afterwards
Okay.
can speak.
So the slideshow on the TV over here. Oh, there's 2.